for, not for the sound, but for the, there it is.
I see your slides. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Scott, for introducing me, and thank you everybody being in the room. So this third presentation in this session is about a standard, but it's not a standard, it's a best practice that has been developed within the OGC, let's say, standardization community. And it's about encoding. It's about the encoding of a UML model, a UML conceptual model, not into XML, but into JSON. And we've been working on this. It was initiated by GeoNovum a couple of years ago. We took up the initiative and we asked OGC if they were willing to take up that subject. And of course, it went through, I believe it was the domain working group architecture that takes that facilitates that kind of work. And we hooked up with interactive instruments. You see the names of Clemens Portele and Johannes Echterhoff of Interactive Instruments. We hooked up with them to make this work be realized. This is a link to an announcement that was made, a kind of press release that OGC published a few months ago about that this work is finished and that it is published. And when you click on the link, you get a kind of, the text, of course, which is a kind of summary about what we have been doing and what we realized. So, content of this story is, well, there's a short introduction. I will talk about the rationale behind this work, why we have been doing this, that it is about an operational practice, and the best practice, more the content, the scope, what it is about, some examples, and a small slide with a small text about the way forward. So, why have we been taking up this subject? Of course, you know that JSON is a kind of upcoming encoding format. The APIs that we build on nowadays use a lot of JSON encodings. Not mandatory, but that's the regular encoding that is being used. And well, throughout the web applications. So there is a need to take that up into our, let's say, into our suite of standards. What we do, what we are conceptually, when we are conceptually modeling, we are of course using, well, not of course, within the ISO community, we are ISO TC211 community, we are using UML. So that's a conceptual model. So that's what those conceptual models are expressed in. And we have a lot of examples of that. OGC has a lot of examples of that. You see a few of them. There is City GML, there is Pipeline ML, Indoor GML, a couple of others are there. But for sure also the ISO has a lot of UML models expressing the conceptual models that we talk about. We have the metadata standard, which is, of course, expressed in UML. We have addresses. We have the data product specification, the land administration domain model. Those are specific models that are expressed in UML, and they also need an implementation format, because these are kind of domain models that need to be put into practice. And if you want to express them encode them in JSON, you need a way, a format to make that work. And since up until recently, there were no, let's say, rules to do that, to make that work, you know, to standardize the encoding between UML and JSON. That was part of the initiative, why we took this up. We needed those rules, or those new rules are needed or wanted. And it has the same background as what we have done in the past. We have the encoding rules from UML to XML. we have the encoding rules from UML to GML, and we have very much, at least me myself, have been enjoying those encoding rules because they kind of facilitate a deterministic approach encoding the UML that we have into GML or into XML, so that everybody does that in the same kind of way, and that we have a kind of model-driven approach that you, if those rules are implemented into software, that you can just push the button and your UML gets translated automatically into, at those days, into GML or into XML. And that very much attributed to, at least to my working environment. For me, this was very enjoyable that we had those, or that we have those things in place. And so this was part of the rationale that we also thought, well, okay, for JSON, we need the same kind of stuff. So what have we been working on then the last couple of, well, it has taken a few years to do so. We drafted this OGC best practice on UML to JSON. And it's not a standard. We decided that, well, we will not make it a standard for now because that would have taken at least too much, not too much, but more procedural time. So we decided, okay, there is a, well, it's not called a fast track, but at least it's a faster track to make it a best practice. And a best practice doesn't mean that it doesn't have a status. It has gone through a request for comments and everything, so it's taken up very seriously. And the advantage of it is that it is a practice. It is something that has been put into practice. So it's not an abstract standard, it's coming from a practical situation. There was some history already, so we took up the work that had already been done in OGC work before. There is this UML to GML application schema pilot that was taking place in 2020 and resulted in an engineering report, which was about UML to GML encoding, but also very much into UML to JSON encoding. So there was already practice that was recorded, that was put into a document that we could extend upon. So this is the page when you go to the URL that is presented downstairs, not downstairs, in this slide, and so it is published, it is official, and I very much invite you to take a look at what's there. The timeline that I said, so this was initiated in 2020. We started, we came up with a draft already after some months, and then we took a year to put that draft into practice and to, well, put it into kinds of small test beds. And we took that practice or those experiences and came up with a second draft a year later. So that was published, sorry, in 2024. And we had some time then to bring it out to comments in the OGC procedure for doing that. That was started in November, and there was a TC vote going on. And so in March this year, everything was finished and this work was published. As I said, this is a best practice, and part of this OGC best practices is that you need to show that you indeed did put this work into practice. So that has been done. There is software where these encoding rules are implemented in. Probably most of you know the shape change transformation tooling that came up from interactive instruments. So these encoding rules are implemented into shape change, so they are ready to work with. The tooling is there. There's also a Dutch kind of shape change-like tool, which is there. It's called Inverter, but that's more dedicated to a specific Dutch environment. And there are also some applications where this UML to JSON encoding is really put into practice. There are some domain models that it has been used for, but it has also been used within the ISO TC211 work. I'm the project lead of the metadata part 4 work, where the metadata standard, the conceptual model of the part 1 is encoding into JSON. And that is also where we use these standardized encoding rules for, to make that work. So it has been put into practice. About the scope, some details, a definition of requirements, what the requirements were for this encoding rules. Well, the basic requirement is that it has to take use or cope with the 19103, that the ISO standard that defines the UML profile that we are using. So it has to be able to understand that UML profile, the UML profile that ISO has, and it has to understand the 19109, the rules for application schema. So those are the basic requirements that we did put in. For the scope, we said, okay, we want not only to, of course, convert to plain JSON, so encoding rules for plain JSON, but also, of course, include the GeoJSON, because we are the Geo community, and the JSON FG, JSON features and geometry. So those are the three basic encodings that are facilitated by these encoding rules. And a third one is that the design should be, Scott was talking about modular systems, that the design should be modular and extensible with conversion rule. So that we have basic modules, one dealing with, I'll show that later, one dealing with plain JSON, one dealing with GeoJSON, and one dealing with JSON features and geometries. This is more detailed about the requirements classes that we have put in. It's a very well structured best practice, and this shows already that modular approach. So there is a core with basic encoding rules, UML to JSON encoding rules, and then there is a basic encodings, having the plain JSON, having the GeoJSON, having the JSON features and geometry in it, which are modules by themselves, which are also modules in which one module is extending the other module. So GeoJSON is extending plain JSON, and JSON FG again is extending GeoJSON. Code list encodings were a special module that was taken care of, and there is another by referencing encoding and a union encoding part that seemed to be necessary. A small example, the best practice document includes this specific example, which is about, well, just a basic conceptual UML, talking about buildings and building parts, and a parcel containing buildings, and a parcel referencing persons in their role as an owner. And well, just to show you and prove to you that it is actually working, I encircled that parcel stuff part, feature type over there. And when you use the best practice, you can do that manually, of course. You can do the handcrafting, following the rules. that was done in this case, but as I said, since it is implemented into the shape change tool, you can do that now only by pushing the button. So this is the plain JSON variant of the encoding of the UML that you just saw. This is the GeoJSON encoding with some remarks over there, because of course it's referencing the GeoJSON feature.json element in it. It talks about the primary geometry that is mapped to the geometry element, and some more details that are there. So this is the GeoJSON application schema, and this is the JSON features and geometry application schema. So it's not referencing now the GeoJSON feature.json, but it's referencing the JSON FG variant of that. And the geometry member now is called the place. It's called place now, place member. So this is to show you that how it's working. And well, the way forward is that I want you, and I've specifically put that word enjoy in here, because this makes your life easier. Not everybody, there's no need anymore for everybody to do this by him or herself. This provides the encoding rules, and as I said, since it is implemented in tooling, and it can be implemented in other tools, of course, the rules are there, or any business community can take up those rules and implement it in software tooling. And well, just to say and stop this talk, I hope you can enjoy those rules, and that it will make your work more pleasant. Thank you.
Great, thanks a ton, Paul. And of course, we have a little bit of time for questions. Just for folks' information, OGC best practices are treated the same as standards in OGC. They are first-class citizens. We consider them to be amongst our most important documents we publish, equally as important as standards, because best practices actually tell you how to do something, and we want to stand behind it. When we say best, it's really best. There's a horrible phrase in American English that maybe many of you have heard before called eating your own dog food. You believe in a product you offer so much that you'll actually use it yourself. So if you make dog food, you know your dog food is so delicious, you'll actually eat it yourself. We do believe in that in OGC with respect to our standards and best practices. And so this best practice now is ready for use for a lot of our standards community. And just as you saw in Paul's last slide, that enjoy slide, the intent here is with all of these OGC standards that end in the three letters GML, city GML, indoor GML, et cetera, use of this best practice, be it via commercial or open source software that's already developed, or just by people following the practice, will greatly expedite moving some of those encodings into JSON or JSON FG in particular, the features and geometries JSON. And so this is just super valuable for us to stay nimble, but also honor that great modeling that formed the foundation of all these conceptual models and ensure that it is properly represented in JSON. So kind of a long preamble to any questions, but anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I see one. That's Nick
Yes. Hi, Paul. Yes, I've just got a question about one of your slides, 2 slides ago, and if you can show the slide again, that would be good. Is that possible?
Well, they should help me, I believe. Technicians, thank you. Well, I hope not of this one.
Not that one. Try the next slide. No, sorry, forward, that one.
JSON F.
That one, yes.
Oh.
So please tell me if this question is best handled outside of this forum. My question about that is that you have a requirement to use a particular piece of of JSON required by the GeoJSON schema, so the properties thing here. But what you've done is you've put that properties inside another feature, another part of JSON called properties. And so I just question whether that's sensible. So you've got two elements, properties and then properties. Is there a chance that people using the JSON here will be confused by the double use of properties?
Let's take this offline. Yeah, but Nick, I thought that you would ask something. What about JSON LD?
I would like to, but
yeah,
that might also be outside of this forum.
Yeah. So we did not choose JSON LD as an encoding target because that's a different kind of cookie all the way. So, but things might come up.
Yeah,
there.
so that's why, part of the reason I asked that question is that in the case of using fixed schemas like GeoJSON and JSON FG, I wondered what decisions were made about the use, and that's what my question was about. Whereas when we come to JSON LD, it's a very different game. So yeah, I'll leave that second question for another time.
Yeah, but okay, I'll talk to you later.
Thanks for the question, Nick. And yeah, we have to have a lot more discussions on JSON LD in general.
Heidi has a question.
Oh, hey, Heidi.
Yes, I do have a question. Thank you. So I assume you will also be eating your own dog food and use this best practice in your own organization, in your country. I was wondering, where do you then still use XML, or is XML abandoned now? XML, GML?
We use it in parallel. It's not abandoned at all. You know, XML has a big legacy. It's, let's say, a proven technology, of course. So many standards are still being published, and also new ones encoded into GML. So we use both, and indeed, we have eaten this dog food already. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No, I wish I hadn't used that phrase. I see Knut Online has a question.
Good.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just want to congratulate with this great work. This is, as I just wrote in the chat, it's essential for making sure that the implementations in JSON are harmonized and synchronized with the conceptual models, as you also mentioned. Both Paul and Scott mentioned that when you spoke now. We as the ISO TC211 people in the meeting now, we have been discussing issues related to this throughout the week, and this work will really be helpful for us for moving further and beyond metadata JSON implementation, but for any conceptual schema. So thank you for this work. Looking forward to following it further.
Okay, thank you, Knut. Because I also noticed in the week that, well, the passing days, that we had some discussions that we didn't have a deterministic, I had to learn that word, deterministic approach from encoding UML to JSON, and even not having a deterministic approach of encoding UML to GML, but we sure have. So we need to, well, put that into well, under attention, I would say. Okay.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Paul. Great presentation, and this best practice is really excellent. It was a pleasure for me to work through it in our process as well, and I'm just very impressed with how quickly people are using it. And yes, certainly there in the Netherlands, I've sat with Paul and some of his colleagues last year after our meeting in Delft to talk about all things JSON, and they're doing some really incredible work at GeoNovum. So thanks, Paul.